Hi, this is a video on how to solve a quadratic by using the quadratic formula. So up until now, you've been shown various ways to solve a quadratic, and the example I have right here is a quadratic equation because the power of 2. Remember, this is your quadratic term, your linear term, and your constant. And up until now, we've mostly been using factoring. So if I remind you of this, you would put it in factored form, which for some of you that means using that x, where you multiply the first times the last to get the top, the middle is the bottom, all that stuff. So you're going to get x plus 2 times x plus 3 equals 0. And then you set those up equal to 0 and you solve them. And basically what you've done is you have figured out where the two locations, in this case, that they cross the x-axis. So if I show you on my calculator here, can you see the screen? Probably can't see the screen very well. Of course not. Well, if I could show you the screen, maybe if I take the light off, does that help at all? I typed that equation in there, and if I push graph, remember it's a parabola. And if I zoom in at all, which is hard to zoom, but you can see that it crosses at -3 and -2. And so this was just one way to do that. And factoring works as long as these numbers right here come out. You can factor it. So the other way to do this is, and this way always works, is what's called the quadratic formula, which you've all been exposed to. So this is basically just a reminder of how to do that. So the formula is, to get x, it's the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. These particular letters come from the quadratic equation. So here's the standard form, and your problem always needs to be in standard form, which means one side equals 0. So here's your quadratic term, your linear term, and your constant. There's your a, b, and c. So let's do a couple of examples of this just to remind you. And you'll use a calculator for this. But what I want to do is I want to show you how you can use your calculator, maybe do little bits and pieces at a time. So here's my first example right here. So listen to my steps again. So step number 1 is always make sure it's in standard form, which in this case it is. Quadratic, linear, constant, and it equals 0. So step 2 is, what is a? And in this case, the coefficient of your quadratic term is 1. B is the coefficient of your linear term. And C is your constant. And then you actually just plug them into the formula. So x equals opposite of b. Plus minus means you're going to do the problem twice, because if you remember on that last problem I did, you had 2 solutions, and most of the time you do. So plus minus the square root of, do b squared in your head. Don't do as little math on the calculator as you can because of the typing errors. So b squared would be 16 minus 4 times a times c, all divided by, and I'm going to do 2 times a in my head. 2 times 1 is 2. So standard form, what's a, b, and c, plug them into the formula, and now this part right here is called your discriminant. And I would tell you to actually just type that. So if I go back to my calculator, I don't know if you can see what I'm typing, but probably not because of the glare. So what I'm going to type is 16 minus 4 times 1 times -21 and hit equals, and that's actually 100. So what I'm going to do is x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 100, all divided by 2. Now you should be able to finish this in your head, because what this really is 4 plus the square root of 100 divided by 2 is your first answer, and your second answer is going to be 4 minus the square root of 100 divided by 2. So the square root of 100 is 10, so 4 plus 10 is 14, divided by 2 is 7. So x is 7, and in this case, 4 minus 10, which is -6, divided by 2 is -3. So there's your 2 locations. So again, this probably could have been factored. That tells you it could have been factored, but you need to just practice some that are easy too, like this. So this should be coming back to you. So now I'm just going to do one more example so you can see. So if you notice this one, I did not put it in standard form. So step 1 is standard form, which means you need to move your linear term and your constant term over. Try to keep your quadratic term positive. I mean, you could move it over there, but this is easier. So it would be 8x squared minus 11x plus 3. So remember, when you move them, they change to their opposites, and then figure out a, which is 8, b is negative 11, c is 3. Plug it into the formula. So the opposite of b, plus minus, square root of b squared, do that math, minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a, which is 16. Then get an answer underneath the radical. So if I type 121 minus 4 times 8 times 3, I get 25. 32, yep, okay. So then your two, and most of the time you'll get decimals, but I'm not sure that this is going to end up being a decimal or not. So my two problems are going to be 11 plus the square root of 25 over 16. And then I'm going to do it again as 11 minus the square root of 25 over 16. So 11 plus 5 is 16. 16 divided by 16 is 1. So x is 1. And 11 minus 5 is 6. 6 divided by 16, you can either leave it in decimal form or you can leave it as a fraction. So it's 0.375, which 6 over 16, if you divide them both by 2, that's the same as 3 over 8. So either one of these answers would be fine. So that's the basics of it, and then I'll answer questions when you guys come back. Thank you.